Hello and welcome. In this episode we're going to be taking you through the latest updates to Infinite Openings. Yes, that's right, there's more updates. This is a tool that we're just continually improving. Sometimes it's sort of small increments, sometimes it's major features. This one is 4 little minor elements, but they will have a fair impact on what you're capable of doing. Okay, so let's look at the first one. The first one is relevant only to the sliding doors, the multi-sliding door option. And what we're enabling here now is the ability to add more than a single fixed panel on either side. So in this instance we've got fixed panels and sliding panels. So let's go into this object and see how that's done. So on our operable elements page where we defined the opening, we've selected the multi-slide door, and where we configure the panels we currently have 2 panels on either side and the first is fixed. Previously, these first fixed items were check boxes, so that you could tick them on to turn on the fixed panel. Now we have changed that from a toggle to an integer, so you can actually nominate the number of fixed panels. So for instance here I could set both these panels to fix, click OK, and you can see that's now running on the same line as the other fixed panel and is also a fixed element without handles and so on. And we only have the one sliding element. This is just a small residential example, but you could obviously use this to create quite large configurations that could include a significant number of fixed panels. For instance, in this element I can just bump up these panels. Let's just do 4x4. So now you can see on either side we've got 2 fixed panels on the same plane, and then we've got our staggered sliding elements. I think in this one what we're going to do is we're going to have all left panels, 3 panels. I think it's actually going to be 2 fixed, and they're actually on the other side as well. So it's 3, 2, 0, 0. Okay, so that's our sliding element that we want for this scenario, and it also demonstrates obviously this new feature that we have with the multiple fixed panels. Okay, so the next improvement we have is related to louvers. Once again, it's only a small component, but it's quite a handy function that I'm sure you could actually apply in multiple ways. So what we have created is a custom profile for the louver blade. So let me show you how that works. This window here is actually meant to be louvered, so select that element. In the operable elements page, I'm going to change this to a louver window. Then I'm going to click on this to go into the settings of those louvers. Angle of 30 degrees, 120, and it's a glass pane. So here you can see we now have a polygon function at the bottom of these 3 items that we previously had. So we've got the glass pane, we've got the elliptical blade, which is basically a sort of relative ellipse shape. It's curved ends with a midpoint. Then we've got the 2-stage louver, which is basically has 2 fins that make almost like a house shape. And now we've got the final one, the polygon louver. So I'll show you what the currently looks like. These are our glass panes, so you can see they're just a simple rectangular extrusion. The elliptical blade. Okay, so there you can see the profile of the elliptical blade. It's curved at the ends and has a little bit of a V shape in it. And now the 2-stage, so you can see how that works. These 2-stage louvers are usually a fixed element and would not have an angle on it, would just be vertical. However, now we also have our polygon. So I'm going to go click on the polygon function. I'm not sure what it's applied to. We have a defaults here, so that has actually set it to what will be a rectangular extrusion. I'll just show you what that is. So it's just a simple rectangular extrusion. We want to turn those defaults off because that's locking that shape down. Now we want to go to the 2D view and we want to adjust the profiles. So we need to turn on our profile hotspots. We can do that in shape and profile guides. I'm pretty sure that's the setting that we want. Go to the 2D view, select the item, and here you can see we have a series of guides that are defining the shape of that element. So there's a panel, so if you look at this, you can see this rectangle extending along here. That's sort of just explaining that that's the vertical aspect, so it gives you a reference for this profile. So what I'll do is I'll show you this point here That's your 0, 0. That's your starting point. That's the origin. So with that as your origin, you can then start to make adjustments to this. When we go back to our 3D view and have a look, you can see that's the origin down there and it's stepping out this way. Back to the 2D view. Now what I might typically want my profile to do, probably something more like this. So these polygons work in all the same way that the other polygons within this object work. You've got 3 nodes along the side. The first node at the quarter length is to add a new node, and the second node curves that edge. So now with my Louvre shape defined, I can go in 3D and we know pretty much what that's going to look like in the profile. Okay, so there's the custom profile. Now obviously this profile is not quite 120, so I'd probably want to adjust the spacing here, and this could be a profile that actually sits quite close to the one below. So let's just try something. Let's just set this to 50, so it's fairly minor spacing. Okay, and there you can see you've got quite an interesting Louvre arrangement there, and you can obviously customize that to your heart's content. Okay, the next aspect that we've done, this is a minor aspect, but something that I've seen on the forums has been asked for quite a lot lately, and it's an aspect that we will fine tuning, so we decided to add in these other functions. What I'm talking about here is the plaster return. So let's have a look. So here, if we have a look in 2D, we've set up the plaster returns, which is the returning of the final material on the inside and on the outside. Let's go to the 3D and let's apply our cutting plane, and you can see that we've made sure that that geometry mimics in 3D as well. However, the item everyone's been asking for is having that also occur vertically. Apparently none of the standard Graphisoft objects or any other object out there is applying this element on the top and bottom surfaces as well. So we quickly went into the tool and set that up. So now if we select this element and we go to our wall closure page of the interface, you can see we've now got these 4 extra checkboxes to turn the top and bottom elements off internally and externally. So let's just do these ones first. Okay, so you can see that element is now wrapping around the top. Do the bottom of this one and the top of the outside one. Okay, so you've got it wrapping around there, and you can see plaster element wrapping in there, and finally the bottom element. Okay, so that is our building material returns for the perimeter of the window. One thing to note is that the size, if you do want to customize these elements, so make them thicker or thinner than the actual external material, internal material, and you want to adjust where they finish in the window, for the top and bottom elements, they are all relative to the left hand side element. We don't have independent controls for that yet. Okay, the final main update is the interface. Obviously, the interface is something that we're constantly working on, and we've come up with something now that is an extension of the latest version that we think makes this tool really, really easy to use for the average user. So let's have a look. We initially implemented these this interface with these pages and color coding. That was a request by one of our clients. You can see the different color coding. Fixtures are yellow, openings blue, design elements are orange. So when you click on one of these pages, it takes us back to the interface where all this is sort of controlled. This is our components page, where you can see every aspect of the element that you're configuring. So what we then did is we created what we call our designer menu, which streamlines this into the core elements. Then we changed that so those core elements give you access to the catalogs in this nice imagery, so that we can very easily select preconfined elements. And then we can also customize those elements. However, it's still a little complicated in that once you decide to customize the element, you have to go back to the more complex interface. So what we did is we simplified this. So I'm just going to show you how this works. So let's say we start with a typical element, and what are we? We're using the window tool. So we'll start with a window. Just use a standard window here, and you can see that basically locks everything down. So if we go into here, we've got a whole series of components that are now locked to this element. So if we now hit the customize button up here, it opens up this new custom tab where we can then, you can see it's changed from being set to this element to now being a custom element. So we can just minimize that to give us more real estate. And it's given this custom tab. Now in this custom tab we can set the overall sizes. Obviously that's the most important thing when modifying something. So we have the overall sizes of the element. And just bring up the 3D so we can see the element. So you can see we've got a 1500 by 1000 window. Now we can go into our panels here, and this is where we can select the number of columns and the number of rows, so we can start to divide this element up. And we can nominate whether they're equally spaced or not equally spaced. Usually it's best to start setting it to equal, and I do 3 by 2. Okay, and then we can come and we can turn on the different parts of those panels, the different mullions and transom aspects that we want to give us the configuration that we're after. Once we've done with the panels, we can click on this openings and we can start to determine what elements are operable and what elements are fixed. Once you've nominated the windows that you want in all of these locations, you can basically put whatever you want in there. That's such as the flexibility of this tool. You can then go down to your glass and select the glass settings. See, that's just set to general at the moment, so we can go and set this to something more typical. Blue glass. So that's the first element. They all updated, so obviously the glass element is set to a uniform. And if you want to get into the deeper settings, then we've conveniently located the page links here. So for that glass, if I want to make them independent, I can just go quickly to the glass page and I can uncheck that all same, and I can then arrange my glass here if I like. I'm just going to choose some random colors so you can see very obviously changing, or I can go back to my panel here and I can start making the changes in here. So that basically gives the average user the interface they need to access very quickly the catalogs and your predefined configurations, and then hit the custom button and start changing the size, arrangement and the operable elements within. Once they've dealt with that, they can then choose to start to go into these this is not all the components, but these are the typical components that the average user might want to access and modify. They could select from predefined configurations to also speed up their process. So it's up to them how much of the aspect is customized and how much is locked down to predefined configurations. Down the bottom here, we also give them access to the internal and external sill, casing, 2D and 3D representation and screen. Often these elements down here, they really should be selecting from a catalogue. So for an external sill, unless the element has not been specifically created for that project, then the user should stick to the catalogues. Okay, so I think that really gives the functionality of the tool and all the power and all the customizability as well in the most effective and efficient method. And that is it for the end of our updates. There have been obviously a couple other minor things, little fixes and things like that, but nothing else that needs to be demonstrated here. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you look forward to using these functionalities. Hope you look forward to introducing this to the average users throughout your company and giving them the ability to very easily create whatever complex configurations their projects desire. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these interesting features we're developing. See you in the next one.